Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our show, Fandom Access. Aaron and I are here. Jamie will be here shortly. And we've got, like 6 shows to talk about? Something?
We got a busy slate tonight, yeah. We have 2 season premieres, 2 season finales, and 2 shows that are just continuing. 2 shows in the middle of their seasons. So it's plenty to talk about tonight. And we're going to start with the Acolyte, right?
Unfortunately.
Ooh, can you hear me?
I said unfortunately.
Oh, you
that was my fault. I walked away from the computer for a second.
Oh. Yeah, so Jamie will be here in a sec to tell us what she thinks, but I mean, I think we're generally not thrilled. We're generally underwhelmed by this episode, by the entire show, and I think if you look at the streaming numbers of what the top 10 shows are and the number of minutes people stream, this is not a hit with fans either.
There was a couple things I kind of liked about it, but they were so minor. Never mind. Jamie, did you have trouble getting in here?
Yeah, I not had trouble, but it said July 22nd instead of July 23rd.
She made it yesterday.
Okay. I didn't realize it said that when you did, because I couldn't figure out why it had the wrong date. I'm like, is this the right? Then I noticed the live box, and I realized, yep, that's it. So it's all good.
We were just jumping into the Acolyte. We didn't really get into the episode yet. I think we're all, Deja and I are both generally disappointed with the show as a whole. I think you are also, Jamie, which is, I think, unfortunate because you're kind of new to a lot of the Star Wars shows.
Yep. But yeah, it wasn't. That ending was stupid. I'm sorry. That's my comment. The ending was stupid.
A lot of it was stupid.
Yeah, a lot of it. That's a good point. A lot of it was stupid.
Like, like Saul saying he killed her mother by accident. That was not an accident.
No, that was a lie. Really,
he didn't trip over a rock and stab her with his lightsaber.
He should have said he didn't. Maybe should have said he didn't mean to. I mean, that's not.
Exactly. He absolutely meant to.
No, he meant to.
We all saw it.
Didn't realize it was I feel like it was like a reaction. It was still wrong, and he still killed her. But it was kind of like he didn't know what was happening, and he sort of reacted badly. Yeah. I think if he had realized what had happened, he may not have killed her, but that doesn't change the fact he did.
I mean, it depends if you believe. It depends if you believe that he reacted like out of surprise, because she turns into smoke and she tries to like evaporate with May. I felt like his protesting that he felt he believed he did the right thing. He believed he was protecting the twins. Just wasn't earned. I guess maybe it wasn't set up well enough in the first episode where we saw what happened. Like, I
don't think you're supposed to think that he actually had their best interest at heart. He's self-righteous. That's the bottom line. His vision of what happened is the only one that matters, regardless of the truth.
True.
Yeah, I think that he. Yeah.
I'm a Jedi. I'm a Jedi, and I'm always right.
Yeah, and I'm a Jedi, and I have the right to take these children, who arguably are too old to be trained, right? Like, don't usually take a very young child to train a Jedi.
Well, not for nothing. I've always had a problem with the Jedi taking children.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is kind of a problem.
And telling them, you're never going to see your mommy and daddy again. Like, what?
Yeah, I mean, the idea that the Jedi go around and like take kids to be trained, and that they have the right to kind of take anyone who they think. Yeah, it's just not.
And the thing is, like, I mean, we only had, I mean, we're only basing this on the canon of Star Wars, which is all the movies and TV shows that we've seen and everything. But the Jedi weren't always. That wasn't how you became a Jedi. like if you go into Legends, it's kind of different in the beginning. They're not going around kidnapping babies.
Fair enough. At any rate, that's what's presented in this series is that, and in this episode is that Soul. I don't know, for Soul to always protest. I thought I was doing what's best. You were in danger. Like there really wasn't any evidence that these children were in danger, right? There was really Vernestra thinks that these children were created out of the Force, or I guess the Jedi think that much the same way Anakin. Which they were, the same way Anakin Skywalker was or will be. But what we saw, they appeared to be in a happy and loving home, right? Yes, they had like 40 witch mothers, but who are we to say about their culture? In this show, the Jedi are very disrespectful and dismissive of any culture but their own, right? I know that this show is trying to kind of subvert Star Wars and what we thought the Jedi were from the movies, but I don't know. Soul is one of my major problems, I think.
Yeah.
I had other problems with this episode.
Yeah, well, so did I. I did like the senator though. Vestra. I liked him. I was like, yeah, you go, Senator. Strip them Jedi of their power.
Yeah, his name is Senator Rayancourt. And he's been like all on the Jedi for a couple episodes, right? He's like, we need an external review of the Jedi. You two, I don't trust you. I don't think that you guys, like, you have too much power or whatever. And in the end, like, we see that Vernestra is totally corrupt, right? And she blames the whole thing on Soul. What did Jamie say in your text? She created a cover-up to cover up the cover-up.
Yeah, basically. Like, she's just as bad as they are. She's blaming what happened this time on Soul, just like he blamed it on May. Like, she basically did the same.
Well, yeah, I mean... she's of course she's gonna blame it on Soul because he's dead, which I was not sad about.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, she's lying.
Yeah.
She's
the only good thing I could say about the show is the fights are incredible as always. As far as the storyline, if this was just a show of just lightsabers duels, it'd be a great show. The storyline is just it changes so drastically so quickly. I mean, May and Osha literally both switched points of view. Like, I kind of get May's a little bit better that she decides to get justice instead of revenge by saying, no, Soul's going to go before the council and he's going to pay for his crimes. Like, I kind of get that a little because we've kind of seen her the whole, May. I feel like May's arc was a progression, whereas Osha, it was just like, the Jedi are wonderful. I hate my sister, and then kill Soul with a force choke.
Yeah, and the thing is I get that this is her way of, like, I don't want to say becoming a Jedi. It kind of is in a way. He's going to train her, but like, if she's going to train under him, and that, in my opinion, means that she intends to go kill people for him.
Yes.
And that's a problem to me. Like, she was a quote unquote good character, and suddenly she's going. I mean, like, to some extent, when a bad character becomes good, like, that's the point. You know what I mean? Like, they're changed, they're altered. But for the character that was good to suddenly be like, I'm going to go off with the bad guy and kill people, like, that just, to me, is stupid. Like, it just doesn't make sense.
That's my saying. Like, it was too sudden. There was no progression for it. Like, May still. May still hates Soul. She hates the Jedi and everything, but she chose justice over revenge. She still wants to see Soul punished, but we see the progression of her through the entire show. Whereas Osha in like 2 episodes is like, I'm gonna be a Sith Lord now. It's just like
Yeah,
it's so quick. And it just the only thing I liked about May was, is it the first time, so this is something it's technically in canon. It was described originally in Legends, but and I guess in some of the books and comics that are canon, they've talked about it. But because I'm sure Jamie at the very least is wondering, when the lightsaber turned red, that's called bleeding a lightsaber. I thought it was interesting that they literally had her bleed into the crystal.
Yeah, what does that was my other question, because I had asked you guys before that I thought like they were controlling the color by whether they were good or bad, like what
No,
color
it's not a mood ring.
out. Okay,
I'm a
right.
picture.
So how did it?
So I'm explaining that. So it's called bleeding the crystal, and they went literal with the depiction, I think, because it's easier for people to understand it that way. She's basically, all her hate and anger and despair is so massive that it corrupts the crystal, which is what makes it turn red.
Like, Jamie, there's a little crystal inside the handle that
Isn't that sort of what I just said though? Somebody being evil makes it come out red. I mean, that's
but it's not just evil. It's not just it's hate and anger.
Okay.
Which is a normal kind of emotion that all people feel at sometimes, right? That the Jedi are trained.
So extensive is what you're saying.
Yeah, and the Jedi are trained to suppress emotion, and one thing I didn't love about this episode is I guess they think it's clever to almost paraphrase, they paraphrase Star Wars, where Darth Vader says to Luke Skywalker, he says, "Feel your hate, use it, slay me, and complete your," he talks, right? Doesn't he say, "Luke, kill me now and complete your transformation to the dark side and take your place at the Emperor's side," or something like that? He says, right? Those are not the exact words. Yeah. And that's essentially what is said to Osha. Which the stranger says to Osha. He says, do it, feel your hate, come over to the dark side. It was, I get it, but I don't get it, right? It was just a little too on the nose for me in that scene.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though, is it was her transformation from one side to the other was so quick and drastic that it just didn't feel earned, No. I didn't see it. In the Star Wars prequel movies, you see Anakin's journey to the dark side. You know what I mean?
For better or for worse, yes.
We know it's gonna. And that's the thing. We know it's gonna happen because we know who he becomes. But we still saw it. They still did a good job. They still showed this person who wanted to do good and help people and everything, how he turned. It was a gradual thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And with Osha, it was literally 5 minutes.
Yeah.
At least that's what it felt like.
Yeah, we felt that May turned on a dime also earlier in the season, where the stranger, her master, is like, okay, now you just got to kill one more, just kill, and she's like, or is like, kill Karnak, whatever. She says, I don't have to do this. She literally says, I don't have to do this. And it just a light switch flips in her head and she decides not to follow him anymore, right?
Yeah.
Only 2 episodes ago. They both sort of abruptly, it was so telegraphed that they were going to, they wore white and black in the entire season, right? It was so telegraphed from the start that they were going to do a switcheroo, and then it both of them were unearned, right?
Yeah.
Osha, I actually get it a little more. Osha, she says, "Oh, the reason I failed out of being a Jedi is because I couldn't turn down my negative emotions and my grief at losing my mother or whatever." And she apparently has all this unresolved rage that's been brewing in her for 8 years. I gotta put part of that on Soul as being a truly terrible master who like didn't like I'm sorry, but like I feel like in these movies, Obi-Wan Kenobi can like sense things that are happening like literally light years away. Like when Alderaan blows up, he says like, I felt a disturbance in the Force, like a million voices cried out and were silenced, right? And then Soul can't sense things that are happening like 1 foot away from him.
Yeah. And this is during a period where the Jedi are very powerful and very aware, aware of the Force and everything. Like, they're at a strong point in their history, whereas Obi-Wan was one of the last ones.
Yeah, this is really at the peak of Jedi power, right?
Well, I wouldn't say peak, but it's definitely still pretty powerful time.
Yeah. And he like has mismanaged. I mean, I know that this is supposed to be a sort of, this show is supposed to be subverting everything we have been taught to believe about the Jedi and showing them as too powerful, and how we got to a place where there were only like 3 Jedi. When Luke Skywalker comes around, there's like 1 Jedi left, right? Or there are no Jedi left, really, right?
Yeah,
they're thought to be sort of extinct and crazy or whatever. And this is supposed to show us how they got there. And, in some sense, I think all of this stuff going on with like Vernestra and her leadership of the council, like some of that, is that maybe a better storyline? Like her cover up is, I don't know, the detective story, like are May and Osha kind of a distraction? Like, and not a distraction, but not the best part of the story, not the best way to tell this story, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing, that the whole show is so fractured in its storytelling, and that's the problem.
Like this picture, this is the show, maybe, right? But instead, we had to watch like this show instead.
I don't mind watching that part of the show. It's the awful writing that I don't like.
Yeah.
Like, and that at the end of the day, that was the problem with the entire show. The writing was lazy. I said that a couple weeks ago. When he's when he's revealed, when the stranger is revealed, the goofy guy is revealed as the master, and it's like we all saw it coming. I was trying my damnedest to make it not happen because I didn't want it to, because it was so obvious.
No, you're
right. I remember, but I was like, I'm so over this shit because it's just lazy. Like they didn't even try. Like they did an awful job trying to disguise the fact that he was the master. Like they made it blatantly obvious, and it's like, what's the point of even hiding it then?
But maybe they're not trying to make the show hard to follow. Maybe they're going for an audience.
Okay, there's
paying less attention.
But there's making a show easy to follow, and then there's just lazy. I mean, that's just lazy. I mean, Jamie is not a huge Star Wars person, and
now
she's not enjoying it either. Yeah, exactly. You see what I'm saying? Like, we're annoyed for different reasons than Jamie is necessarily, but it's just the overall attempt here. And I'll be shocked if they get a season 2.
Well, let's talk about one good decision they made. This end with the handhold. Have you guys read? Like, they shot a kiss. The original ending they shot was that they would kiss.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And then there was a conversation that was like, wait a minute, they just killed all these people. She lost her sister. Like, is that really the right way to end this? And they left the kiss.
But with all the other writing, does it really matter?
No. Yeah. And then they went kind of with,
you know what it is? They didn't want people to they didn't want to cause people any more harm after what they did to us in the Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
No, but I was just thinking, like, I I feel like it almost makes more sense if she turned to the dark side because she was like in lust with him. It would make slightly more sense than the story we already.
Literally seduced to the dark side.
Literally.
No, I know, but I just meant like at least then there's a reason why she did it.
I guess.
Besides that, you know.
Oh, speaking of other things I didn't like, speaking of losing May, the mind wipe was so stupid. That pissed me off to no end. It made.
Yeah, what do you
no
want to
sense.
do? I want to begin with the fact that she's like, I want you to go. Like, she has to know they're going to take her. Like, she says it like she wants May to have a good life, but she has to know the Jedi are going to take her. She even says, like, they'll try to, find her with using May. So, like, I don't understand that choice. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't either.
it isn't
I
like
don't
he
understand.
said, like, I feel like if she wanted to do something to give May a good life, it would have made more sense to say something like, we'll switch and I'll turn myself in and you go type of thing. Like, that would have made more sense to me.
No, you know what would have made more sense? Why didn't May just go with them?
Yes.
Well, yeah, that would have made more
They
sense.
all could have gotten away. There was no
Yeah.
reason May had to turn herself in.
And then they could drop May off somewhere on some planet and
Yeah.
go on with their evil plan and leave her to live in obscurity like she had
And-
been before.
And they didn't have to wipe her memory. All they if they want to go this route where May turns herself in or whatnot, okay, fine. The only memory you have to wipe is her knowledge of the island.
Yeah.
Well, but I think they would have put her in prison or whatever for murder. Like, by them with her not remembering it, I'm guessing that they think they'll let her go after, or at least that they won't.
They're not going to let her go. They're still going to use
let her go.
They're still
they're
going
not
to
gonna let her
use
go.
her, but I mean, they're
They're-
not going to punish her.
They're going to use her.
Is what I'm saying.
We don't know that they're not going to punish her.
Well, I think no, we don't. But I'm saying I think that's
I don't
the
think-
idea of why she did that.
Hey, I don't think we're ever going to find out because we're never going to get
No, I
season
don't think
2
we
out of
will.
this crap.
Yeah, I don't.
What'd you guys think of the force choke? I
enjoyed that. I was glad Soul died.
well, Soul kind of got what was coming to him. Maybe only because of his own like stupidity and like inability to be any kind of a master. I don't have a picture of the force choke. There's a picture. The force choke is a pretty like advanced, that's Jedi, like graduate level Jedi, right? Being able to force choke people. I mean, we see Darth Vader do it a lot. We don't see it a lot otherwise, right? And I guess it's her extreme anger and hatred allows her to do that, while her sister, also a force user, stands by and watches and doesn't do anything. I mean, maybe the stranger would have prevented her. I don't know, but she doesn't even say like, "Hey, stop! Don't kill any more people," right? Or that was really her first murder, right? Like that's Osha, and that's the first person she. I mean, I don't know. It was cool to see. She's very she must be extremely powerful, or the writers just wanted to put something cool on the screen, right?
Uh-huh.
But I don't know, AJ, am I correct that that's a pretty like advanced Jedi force use? That's advanced. I
wouldn't call it advanced necessarily. You just don't. I think the reason we don't see it a lot is because, the good guys don't force choke people.
Okay.
That's fair.
The proclaimed good guys don't force choke people.
Yeah.
Sis will drop you in a heartbeat with a force choke.
Yeah. I mean, it was the foreshadowed like killing a Jedi without a weapon, right? The Jedi don't kill unarmed people. Yes. Is the bottom line there.
Let me ask you guys. I agree with the statement that it probably wouldn't get renewed, but did they intend another season?
Yes.
You know?
The showrunner wants to see has a plan for 4 or 5.
That's surprising because it seems like they put it in a place they could just end it. Usually they don't do that.
Well,
That's not an ending. That's a. I mean, that it's not a cliffhanger per se, but there's lots of threads dangling.
Yeah, I guess I just don't care about the threads. That's the problem.
Yeah, I
Well-
mean they leave us with this big cover up. So I feel the tease of, how do you say this guy's name? Darth Plagueis. The little, did you see that creepy evil guy lurking behind the wall, Jamie, who was shown for about a nanosecond
in the beginning of the episode.
in the beginning of the episode when they're first around the ruins? There was like a creepy, decrepit, withered emperor-looking dude like peeking around behind the wall, and he's
I don't
like,
remember that. I must.
he's like a Sith. He becomes. Is he Anakin?
He's Palpatine. He's Palpatine's master.
He's Palpatine's master. So that made me. I mean, I had to look up who he was.
That pissed me off.
Why did it piss you off? It pissed me off. Why did it piss you off?
Because we don't need him.
That's why it pissed me off. Like, is that an Easter egg, or is that putting the show like?
No, that's literally putting the show. I mean, he's around. You know, I mean, it like time wise, you know, he's around. I mean, he's also. It's still also probably about. You figure. Probably about 50 years before he starts training Palpatine. 50, 60 years.
Yeah, I'm torn about them. Is that an Easter egg or no? That's where this show is going, right? Which is into like non-movie other Star Wars universe kind of. Okay, I'm gonna cut all that and say two things. Every single thing doesn't need an origin story. And we don't like, is this really going down the road of like the Palpatine origin story and the event, like pre-Anakin, like everything? Do we need a whole origin story of Phantom Menace? Is that where this is going? And my second comment is this Marvel universe-itis? Is there, just like there's too much Marvel, I think, is there too much Star Wars now with stuff like this?
Well, see, that's the thing. You're never going to get to I mean, in this span, unless they time jump, hop a lot, you're never gonna get to Palpatine. I mean, this is 100 years before, and that's why I feel like you don't need Plagueis, because it's 100 years before. You're not going to get, you know. And my thing is, you don't have to connect it to the rest of the universe. We know it's in the same universe. You know, I mean, we got Yoda's head at the end, which I was expecting to see Yoda at some point, because he's actually the Grand Master of the Council at this point in his life, which was fine. That quick cameo of Yoda is fine, because he's expected to be around because he's a fucking Jedi.
He's 800 years old, right?
Yeah, we don't need Plagueis because his story doesn't really matter right now. The most important thing he did was train Sidious.
Yeah. Who's another sort of another person that the majority of the audience is not.
That's funny,
right?
We have Sol in the chat, and he's spot on. Disney and Marvel are married, so yeah, everything needs origin.
Yeah. Thank you, Sol. I think it's too much. I think everything doesn't need origin, and
exactly it. That's why I was looking forward to it, because I thought, okay, we're gonna get a new fresh story. And I will say one thing: I don't have a problem with the cover up of the cover up of the cover up, simply because you've heard it time and time again. Oh, the Sith haven't been around in forever. There hasn't been a Sith in thousands of years. That's because everybody keeps covering up the fact that the Sith are still around.
That's a good point. Let me ask you guys something, because I couldn't remember. I was trying to remember back to last week. I don't think I pay enough attention sometimes on this show. But whatever her name is, I want to call her Velastra. That's from Doctor Who. That's not the right character's name, but you know who I mean. The green one at the end of the table.
Yes.
They said before, they hinted that she was the master of the villain, right?
Oh yeah,
was that new this episode?
She was his master.
That was another thing that was obvious. I mean, the most obvious thing.
Right, but did they actually outright say it before this episode is what I'm asking. I couldn't remember if they said it or
they didn't outright say it, but two things happened, okay? Two things. One was he was talking to Osha, and she asked about his scars, and he said that he left the Jedi because he was betrayed by his master, and the literal next scene, like the scene cut there and went to her, like it literally, that was the.
Okay, then I guess I just realized it without them saying. That's what I wondered, because I couldn't remember if they like actually.
And then we see that she has a Jedi whip, and the marks on his back look like whip marks. Yeah, pretty. It was pretty obvious from the get-go.
Yeah. I mean,
they lack subtlety in this bad script writing.
Yeah. I mean, did this show? I mean, should they have gone even darker? Like, would it be better if they? I don't know, if it was like everybody was a Sith and it was all about like the Sith being like, God, the Jedi are the worst. We need to like, why are the Jedi persecute? Like
that would have been more
during the Jedi at the center of the story.
More interesting,
right? Is that like a perspective that's not like, I don't know. Could like, does this show like an unwillingness on Disney's part to maybe like be more interesting and darker? I don't know, like whenever AJ and I thought about Andor, it was a departure and a I mean the Force isn't even like in it at all, right? It's like all about the Rebel Alliance like getting started and whatever, and how Cassian Andor comes to be a rebel, and it's a very small story. It's one man's journey. Right. And it's kind of a departure from the big good versus evil themes that we see in Star Wars usually. So it was like, is that in a way a risk that Disney took and it paid off? And was this show just too safe and too, there's also been criticism that maybe television is just not the right way to tell this kind of story. And if this was a 2-hour movie, could it have been really interesting? Or would it have just been like, I don't know, Star Wars, or the rise? Would it have been like the Phantom Menace kind of over again? Right?
They could make it interesting in almost 8 hours.
Well, yeah. Well, but I mean, these Star Wars shows, the pacing is bad on most of these shows. Even like, I love The Mandalorian, but sometimes in the middle of the season, you're like, is something going to happen? Right? Yeah.
Sure.
Boba Fett was. Yeah.
Oh, we're not going there.
Yeah.
All right. So for a show we hated, we just talked about it for half an hour. So.
All right, let's get rid of
it.
We probably won't see this show. I doubt it gets renewed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be shocked if it does.
Okay.
All right.
I agree.
Ark.
All right.
Echoes.
Jamie, do you have to drop off for a minute? Do you want us to talk about?
Yeah, you guys do either House of the Dragon or
let's talk about the Lazarus Project.
And I'll be back. Yeah. Just text me if you need me before then.
The Lazarus Project had its season finale.
No, it didn't. We got one more.
It had its series finale.
We have one more. We have one more.
One more?
This was episode 7.
This was episode 7?
Yeah.
Wow, it really felt like an ending to me.
Nope, that was 7.
Wow, this feels like it could have been the ending. Okay, so I was wrong. We have one more in the Lazarus Project. This episode was whack. All kinds of crazy shit happened in this episode. I did rather really enjoy it. Right? This is the episode where they basically have the two
Brysons.
Bryson, I was gonna say Brandon. The two Brysons are present, and George is like all trying to get Wes to do the reset so everyone can basically come back to life, and she's like, I won't do it no matter what. And it causes George to I don't know. I felt George acted out of character. What did you think? I mean,
I think George was desperate. What is George's character though?
So they get the two in an effort to. everything has gone wrong in last week's episode, and pretty much everybody got killed, right? And the only people alive are George and Sarah and
Samson.
What did you just call him? Vincent?
Samson.
This guy are the only people alive. And so they got to get the reset so they can have another shot at this, right? The only way to do it is to go into Lazarus headquarters and force Wes to do it. Which is never going to happen, right? So they take Bryson not knowing. I mean, Wes, how'd you feel about Wes in this episode? Wes, like, after she wipes out the lab, she has her, I don't know if this guy's her ex-husband or her ex-partner, but it's the father of her son. She has him like murdered in cold blood, right? Granted, he did invent a time machine. He invented a time machine.
Well, he didn't invent it. He just funded the people that did.
All right. He was the mastermind that paid for the time machine, and she has him assassinated, and then she's gonna lie to her son about it, right?
Well, she's a big fat liar to everybody about everything.
But is she right? But she's right. Like a time machine.
Okay. Yeah. Yes, I will say this. I understand her thought process. I understand that she's saying that having time travel is really dangerous and it could really screw shit up. And she's not wrong because shit is really screwed up.
Yeah, but like shit is screwed up not in the way that Wes fears. Wes is like, oh, if there's a time machine, like you could never trust the stock market. You could never like trust like anything that ever happened because someone would go back to, and she's concerned about sort of like societal and cultural breakdown. Stuff is messed up because of people, a very small inner circle of people trying to create or stop the time machine.
Yeah.
Like her fears, I get them too, but they haven't come to pass yet, and stuff is already messed up.
It's actually it's funny because she's not wrong about what her, her fears aren't wrong, but what she has to come to realize is there's nothing she can do to stop it because it's already happened. Because like it's one of those things where you can't. This is one of those things where you can change little things, but you can't change the big things because if you change the big things, then none of those things happen at all. What's her face there?
Sarah?
No, not Sarah. What's her face?
Archie?
No, Janet. Janet kind of says that. And she's talking to Bryson the one night, because she's really gotten to like Dr. Gray, and she's conflicted now. She's like, do I warn her? But then she's like, but if I don't go through with this, then nothing happens the way it did, and that would screw things up too, and that's, and that's the whole thing. No matter what, it's ironic because no matter what Wes does, it's not going to change anything because this is how it's always played out. This has always happened this way, and you can't change it because if you change it, then everything in the future changes and nobody goes back in time to stop the time machine if you stop the time machine.
It's interesting that this part of true time travel is playing out that way because when you look at like the reset back to every July 1st, it doesn't happen that way. Like George and Sarah, they meet, but they don't always end up together, right? Like it doesn't always everything is not predestined. There's a little bit of there's randomness. With the reset, but with the jump back in time, the randomness is kind of taken out of it a little bit, right?
Well, it is still randomness, but it's how it happened. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
And it's funny because a lot of the stuff we've seen are alternate versions of stuff because now that we're going to have the reset, now it's going to play out how we've always known it's going to play out because of the reset, which is ironic because George creates the reset, forces her hand. Actually, Sarah does. I want to know what the hell Sarah says to her, because George leaves the room. Sarah has a conversation with Wes. George comes back in, and Wes is calling for Project Black, whatever the hell it's called.
Code Black.
Code Black, yeah. And George is like, "How did you do that?" So I don't know. Sarah said something to her. I want to know what Sarah said that got Wes on board. Because there was no changing her mind. I mean, she's sitting there watching her teenage son get beaten to a pulp with a telephone, and she still won't do it.
And yet she sees her 24-year-old son sitting right next to him. So does she feel like, I know he doesn't die because he's here?
But it's not about him dying. It's about the trauma he's going to endure because of it.
I know.
Which now we know why Bryson,
Yes, and I mean, do we know? So Bryson, several episodes ago, said, George, it's not what you've done, it's what you're going to do. And in this episode,
I guess there could be something else.
In this episode, George and Sarah talk about that, about what is it that he will do. I mean, do you think that's it? Do you think Bryson's like, you beat me almost to death when I was 18 and I can remember it? And so, but he can't, how could he remember? Because he had to be 18 before he could be grown up to go back in time.
Right, exactly.
For George to beat him up, right?
Yes.
Like, he doesn't have a memory of it, except that Bryson is not blooping. Bryson is blooping in a way that other people aren't, right?
Yeah, Bryson, that part of it I don't get, and it probably
Bryson
never will.
Loose in time. Bryson is not. He seems to be not. He seems to be maybe set unanchored in time. It's not really clear. I thought George beating Bryson with the. Beating Bryson with, I thought that was a little extreme even for him. He's killed about 20 people. He's killed Shiv 60 times in a row, right? Here it is. He's shot Shiv 1 million times, but George is sort of we've not seen him be physically violent like that, right? It was a little surprising.
Yeah, he's like I said, he's desperate. He got into such a groove that he couldn't even stop. If Sarah didn't stop him, he would have killed him.
Yeah. Because
he just got into such a rage between all with the frustration of the whole thing.
Yeah.
And knowing George, he probably thought he was going to go in there and be like, "Okay, Wes, this is how it is, and you're going to do it." And he was thinking, "Oh, she's going to be like, oh, okay." And then when she didn't, he was just like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
I mean, she either didn't think he'd do it, or she's a woman who's willing to sacrifice her son for the good of human.
Well, she just killed her ex.
Yeah.
So
I mean, a lot of people maybe fans dream about killing their ex, but
fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how it ends.
So it ends with the code black. So there's one more shot at it.
Yep. But that's what I'm saying. I can't wait to see how the last episode plays out, and I'm sure we're going to be annoyed because I guarantee there's going to be cliffhangers.
Yeah, there's no way this can end without having a big cliffhanger.
Yeah. So, Jamie's back, so we can move on to
Orphan Black
or Orphan Black, whichever one.
I don't care either one.
Let's talk about the Ark. Everybody's waiting to hear about the Ark, right? We have people here who love the Ark. We're so excited to watch it. Let's talk about the Ark first, and then we'll come back and talk about Orphan Black, okay?
Sounds good.
So this was the Ark season premiere. Season 2 premiere after, at the end of last season, when the planet almost blew up and the Ark is disabled. And in this episode, they have to rely on Mrs. Maddox, Dr. Maddox to Ark 15 to save them.
Maddox is a nut.
Yeah. This is my favorite part, maybe. when they came out the side of the ship. Maddox, yeah. So I mean, the whole kind of thing is about them having to rely on Arc 15 to save them, and Maddox is not really helpful. She's like, "Oh, I'll save you," and then she's like, "Oh, actually, I only can save 4 people."
Yeah, I wanted her to turn around and be like, hey, I tell you what, we just saved our ship, just saved your ship. So how about we do this? How about we take all your people and put all your people on Arc 1, and we take Arc 15 and we go about our merry way since we saved you. That's what I want. Something to say, something like that.
I know, right? Except they have no weapons or ability to.
Like we wouldn't have been, we wouldn't have been disabled if not for saving your ass. So, and Maddox she's weird because it's like on one hand she just seems like that mustache twirling villain, but on the other hand she's like, at the end of the episode when they're like, we're gonna fix our ship and we'll see you there, and she's like, okay, yeah, no problem. See you there. Just don't bring my daughter.
Yeah.
Who I want to know more about her because failed experiment. What they do to her daughter. We always knew she was a little weird to begin with. Might be more going on there than we first knew in season 1. And I'm upset. Now we have 2 doctors. We don't need 2 doctors. Every futuristic show, you only need 1 doctor. As soon as one, if one dies, the other one takes over. If that one's gonna die, you find another one. We have 2 doctors because I'm a little pissed off that they killed Kat. I would have rather they killed Dr. Kabir.
So I have some thoughts on that.
Sorry, I'm muted. I was
Jamie's
talking.
been quiet. Jamie's been quiet.
I was wondering why Jamie was quiet.
I started talking, but I was muted. Yeah, I agree. I was pissed they killed Kat. I don't know that I wanted them necessarily to kill Dr. Kabir, but I got to be honest. When they had her quote unquote die, like I thought he just thought she was dead and that she would probably come back before the end of the episode, because I don't know why. I just was really surprised that they killed her for whatever reason. I didn't think they would, but.
So I was not. I felt like Kat's character didn't really have anywhere to go. We didn't see her almost really at all in the last 2 episodes of last season, which I know because I rewatched them before. I mean, I know she's under like house arrest or she's confined to quarters kind of because of her part in the mutiny, right? Uh-huh. And her big fat lies she's been telling. I do not have a picture of her because of her minimal appearance in this episode, except for her expiration when she's oh, it's true, I dated you for the money and the connections, and then she dies.
Yeah. But I think her stuff with Trust was interesting. But yes, I guess you're right. That story is kind of played out. I don't know that we necessarily need it.
Her story is played out. She doesn't really have much she doesn't have any skills or that
she was a shrink.
Well, she's a fake shrink. She's like a
I know
shrink.
But she was a fake shrink, but for a fake shrink though, she did actually help people.
Yeah.
So I read an interview with the creator or the showrunners, and they said, look, we thought someone had to die. Like, it's a huge explosion of the entire ship. Like someone's got to die. And we talked about whose storyline was kind of completed, and it was hers.
Fair.
And, she, I wasn't surprised at all. When she died, I was like, oh yeah, what were they going to do with her? What else is there really for her to do? She's a one-note character. Like the joke is played out. The joke that she's like, sort of like, that she's sort of like, like shallow and spoiled and like, I mean, how much more can we play that? Yeah, I wasn't surprised that if someone's got to die, like, is there someone else you rather would have died?
Yeah, I told you, Dr. Kadir.
Okay. Say that. You did say Dr. Kabir. Okay, Dr. Kabir. Well,
I was going to say they need a doctor, but I guess they have the other doctor now. So
that's what I'm saying.
Well, we know from Walking Dead they always have to have at least one doctor. But yeah, they
Right.
have
And if you
doctors.
have two, then one of them usually dies.
Well, I mean, yeah, they have 2 for now. It's not really clear what will happen if they're all going to stay on this one arc. I mean,
Well, they have no choice. They have no choice right now because the other arc left.
Yeah, yeah, but it's the first episode, and who knows what's going to happen. Maddox is pretty mad. It's funny because Maddox was like, "Oh, I have no room for more people on my ship," and then some got off, but apparently it was the wrong people, right? That got off.
It wasn't the one she wanted to get off, I guess.
Because it's the doctor. And how do you guys like the new character, Kimmy?
I like her so far.
Yeah, I like her so far too.
But I feel like she's going to be a good character.
Oh, Soul, we're going to step back here. Soul Live has a good point with the death of Kat. There's no one left to keep trust in line.
Interesting.
To the extent that she was able to, that's kind of a good point, right? She's the one person who
yeah. Although I feel like at this point, though, if he messes up too bad, they'll just
send him out an airlock.
Yeah.
He still might. He's the most brilliant person.
Yeah, they kind of need him, but I think they have to be afraid of that. Maybe
they need him. Yeah, I like Kimmy, and she appears to be like, what did Maddox say? She's like, you're my closest friend, or you're my key security officer, and I need you on the ship, and you better come back. But I kind of liked how in the beginning so when everybody climbs out of the ship, and they get in the shuttle, and Kimmy's the pilot, and they're like, you have to help us save all our people. And she's like, forget it, I got orders. And you think that she's going to be like this
hard ass.
I mean, maybe she's a red shirt, or if she's this hard ass person who's right up there, Maddox is right, that everyone is in line with Maddox. And I kind of liked how they showed through Kimmy and the doctor. They're like, look, we don't all agree. And
yeah, I was surprised during their little rebel meeting that Kimmy was there. I was a little surprised. The doctor didn't surprise me at all, but when I saw Kimmy there, I was like, oh shit, I did not see that coming.
Yeah,
so I kind of like that.
Yeah, I like how they turned that around a little bit. I don't like Kelly having sort of a resurrected storyline, and now we're kind of supposed to feel bad for her because her I didn't feel bad for her last season also. No matter how much of a jerk your mother is, you shouldn't be turned she's a sociopathic maniac. Not only does she have a bomb in her neck, but we saw how her blood transfusion cured Angus almost immediately, right? Dr. Kabir's like, Angus shouldn't be getting well this fast. What? Yeah. Here he is.
Well, that's a storyline that we're gonna find out eventually. There's something going on with Kelly.
Clearly,
when Maddox referred to her as a failed experiment, there's definitely some kind of genetic engineering going on with her.
Kelly's a
zombie. She is. She kind of looks like a zombie right now, too.
She does look like it there, yeah.
Well, given that, is she even really Maddox's daughter? Maddox says she's just a failed experiment, right? And given that we know that Garnet is a clone. Right? Garnet is a clone who was raised in a lab. I feel like we're getting a storyline where she's going to come to feel real empathy for Kelly, whatever is up with Kelly, and maybe they might have some sort of, I don't know, she might, not that they're going to become friends, but she might have some insight to whatever, I don't know. I'm speculating now, but Garnet's a clone, and it hasn't really been explored that much.
I could honestly, I could see a storyline here where we end up maybe liking Kelly, because I mean they could do a story where none of this is Kelly's fault. You know what I mean?
Well, the crazy psychopathic stuff she did was a little her fault, though.
But it might not be. You know what I mean? Depending on what has been done to her.
Yeah, I guess.
I'm not saying that's the case.
I'm
I'm not saying that's the case. I'm not saying I'm definitely going to be like, oh, Team Kelly now. I'm just saying they could go in that direction with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I just was going to say for people who haven't seen it or don't know, make sure that you go over at some point to scifivision.com because I put up the interviews after the episode had aired. There's one with Dean Devlin and Jonathan Glasner and Christy Burke, and then who plays Garnett, and then Ryan Adams and Stacey Reed are there as well who play Angus and Alicia. But I asked about Kelly because the thing is, it's interesting, and I enjoyed that conversation. The producer, Jonathan Glasner, that's her father, the one who plays Kelly.
Yeah.
Oh, that's her father in real life?
Yeah, and
they
talk about how she was just supposed to be in for a very brief storyline, and that the people, the other heads of the show liked her and wanted to keep the character on, so they expanded her story after the fact. So
yeah, this is her first acting gig.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I had talked to her last season, and that was up too. But if anybody wants to watch that hasn't, it's still there. So yeah.
Can we talk for a second about really about these two sort of like driving so much of the action for the entire episode? Really, like I kind of really liked how Bryce decides to stay. You know, he goes back onto the ship. He's really like, you know, he's he tries to find Kat, and then together they are sort of like putting me back together. And I just, I forgot how much I like these two together.
Yeah.
And how good sometimes their stories are. I guess partly because they're both like bridge officers and so involved in leading the ship, and it's not a distracting romance. It's like a functional romance that drives story sometimes. I enjoyed them.
I like the fact that he like gets her woken up, gets her up and running, and she immediately is like, all right, back to work.
That's what she always does, yeah.
And he's like, no, rest, relax. And she's like, we're all gonna die if I'm the only person. And she's like, she's not. It's not like she's not. It's not ego. It's the truth.
That's why I said she's not completely wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. I like them together. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do too. And he's not falling asleep all the time or passing out all the time now either, which is good.
Yeah. So I thought it was good as a season premiere, that it really kind of kicked off, and they sort of, you know, through like Garnett and Maddox have this conversation about like, why didn't you go to Trappist one? Like, we were going to Trappist. Oh, really? Why'd you go there? Why aren't you going here? And like, there was this discussion about like what planet should be their next, you know, where they should go. And apparently the other arcs went to, what's it called, Trappist 1, and Max is like, hopefully they already have everything all set up and we can just go down there and start, you know, living down there. And I'm thinking to myself, oh yeah, until you try to take everything over and make yourself like empress of the planet, right?
Yeah. Well, at least she's like, we'll let you come in, just don't bring Kelly.
Yeah.
I like what she's like, wait, why did you come to Proxima then? You know, if you had better feelings about the other planet. She's like I'm impatient. Proxima's closer.
Yeah, that's a lie. That's a lie, right? I mean,
no, I don't know. I kind of believe that.
I mean, I kind of believe maybe she wanted to establish her own colony where she could just be the boss of everything. I would believe that.
Yeah, and I think she wanted to beat Trask there too. So her saying it's closer may have just simply been she wanted to be there first.
Well, yeah, because Arc 1 got sent to Proxima. It was later that the later Arc were on Trappist, right?
But did she know that he was on the Ark? So remember, he was in the secret room.
Yeah, he was in
I don't know if she knew he was on there, but she might have still worried he was trying to get to one of the planets. I don't know. I just know she may have wanted to make sure she was the first one anywhere. You know what I mean? Like it didn't matter. She just has to be first.
Well, I think it's about, I don't know that it's about, I think it's about power for her, that she really, I mean, she's running Arc 15 with like an iron hand. And I think she wants to be in control of everything because she thinks she's smarter than everyone else in a very different way than Trust does, right?
Yeah.
I mean, similar but different. But anyway, I liked how they set it up, and they're like headed for a new planet now. Okay, they blew up the first planet they were trying to get to. Let's try another one.
Let's try again, yeah.
And I liked how they
go better.
Kind of set all that up, yeah. You know, as Saul Lives pointing out, there were no like dead moments in this episode. That's a good point. It was well paced. It moved along. Everything kind of made sense. It was great. And so my Spanish is not great, but I think we're seeing that so far it isn't. Season 2 is not available in Uruguay. Welcome, Ale. I hope you're finding a way to watch the show and follow along with our conversation, and that you guys will get the season soon in Uruguay.
I know it was on Peacock after the fact, but I don't know if they may not get that there either. I don't know.
And then maybe, I mean, there are ways which we don't necessarily talk about or endorse, but there are ways to watch things that are not yet available in your country.
Yeah.
So all around, a pretty good season premiere. It gives me, hope, and let's remind everyone how much I hated this show at the beginning of season 1.
Yeah, and Karen and I were not the biggest fans when it
I
started.
told you to keep watching it. You liked it. So.
I know. It took a few episodes for us to get hooked. Yeah. And we came around. So, okay, let's keep it moving. We got a bunch of other stuff to talk about. Echoes. Let me find. I have like 50 million images in here. Let me find Echoes. Okay, this was the flashback episode.
Yeah.
And this finally explain. Every time you guys keep saying things, I'm like, but you don't know what's going on, and like I kept trying to I couldn't explain what I was talking about. I mean, this kind of finally explains everything of why everything happened. Not that it's a legit reason for her to do what she did in any way, but it finally explains why she did it.
Yeah, this is the episode where like Kira sits down on a bench with Lucy and it's like, I'll tell you everything. And then we get the long story of who Eleanor was. And it turns out Eleanor was Kira's wife. How do we feel about this development in the story?
Well, I have to say, watching it back, there were like a lot of clues along the way that I did not, pick up on, that I noticed this time. So they definitely hinted at it a lot. I mean, even back in the first episode, you guys even mentioned about she had a wedding ring, and you were saying, is she married? And then you kind of forgot about it. Like, even back then.
I remember saying that.
You did. One of you did. I don't know.
Yeah, she had a wedding ring, and also like the lamp and the house. And then
I kind of assumed. I will say though, when she made that phone call in the bathroom where you were talking about the wedding ring, I kind of assumed that she was listening. If I'm trying to remember, it's been a while since I've seen it, but kind of assumed that she was listening to a voicemail or whatever, and that the person was dead. But I mean, I didn't know who it was. I didn't connect the dots of it.
Yeah.
But. Yeah.
So we saw how like Kira was a researcher, like Eleanor was a brilliant like Alzheimer's researcher. Because Melissa, who we met in the memory care facility last week, was her mother, and that her Alzheimer's motivates Eleanor to become a scientist. Kira's in her lab. Kira quits the lab, gets another job. They re-meet at this Christmas party. They get together. and they like get married and have a whole life together.
Mhm.
Until when they have a son, right? Who we
Yeah.
have met earlier. And then it turns out that Eleanor also gets Alzheimer's disease.
But
And
it's an early onset Alzheimer's that her research really isn't helping.
She got it around the same age as her mother.
Yeah.
right. And so Kira gives her own experimental surgery or whatever, and it appears to have worked. And then the next day she's dead.
Mhm.
In the meantime,
she printed new neurons for her.
And
it
it
worked.
them in her brain.
Yeah, and it worked for a minute.
Yeah, we don't really know why she died. I mean, whether she died from what she did or she would have died anyway, or I mean, we don't really know. But
wow, people from
temporarily work.
People like my limited experience with people who've had Alzheimer's, they don't like sit with you in the garden one day and necessarily are dead the next day from Alzheimer's, right?
Probably not. It's probably from the brain surgery, but I'm just
it's from
saying
the brain. It's from the brain surgery, and I think that would explain part of Kira's like terrible trauma about it. And then we see how, in the meantime, this might be the most annoying part of the whole episode to me. Here's where I feel like the writers made a mistake in tying this so closely to the original by making this character be Kira Manning. And I think that if she was just a brilliant scientist who did this and wasn't Kira with Kira's background, I could accept it more. But to see scenes of Kira Manning like getting involved with like a billionaire in biotech research about cloning people, like it just to me is a huge weakness in the story that this character would do this. We complain about this every week, AJ and I do, right?
Well, no, I agree with you. I mean, obviously, and this is what I was, waiting to talk about because you didn't know about why she did it. I mean, obviously, she did it because she was in pain because she lost her wife. But I agree. I don't know that after everything Kira went through and everything she watched her mother go through, it's kind of hard to believe that she did it anyway. It's really responsible. I mean,
I will say this.
She
I
tried
get
to be
it.
responsible.
she's in a lot of pain and everything. She did try to prevent it from going any further than, and it was kind of twofold. I mean, part of it was because she missed her wife, and the other part of it was, she was
blamed
going.
herself probably for
Well, she was going to try and do research and see if they could stop it, or learn from it, or because here you have this young person who is going to develop Alzheimer's.
They might be able to cure it. Yeah.
I mean, the thought process behind it, I get. And she was going to make the one and destroy the machine, which she did. Only it turns out that, I'm looking you research assistant. I think he double crossed her and went and sold the secrets to the billionaire. Because I thought that was a great ending when she goes, well, what about Lucy? And she's like, who the hell's Lucy?
Not Lucy, Jules.
Jules. She goes, what about Jules? And she says, who the hell is Jules?
She's like, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Which I mean, again, Kira's made some mistakes, but it makes me feel a lot better knowing that she has no idea, now that we know the extent of what her plan was. Again, not the greatest idea, but it's a little better.
Yeah, but it's like the fact that she's so surprised, though, it's like, this is what happens. This is why you don't clone or print people.
Well, yeah. This is why you don't play with this shit. Which, by the way,
and also, go ahead.
My point. You go ahead. My point was pointless.
I was going to say, Kira Manning of all people should know that don't make a handshake deal with a billionaire. Like what? Like she says to the guy, "We're doing it just this once." And then never again. And this guy all along, he was like, oh, it doesn't. Okay, it would be bad to do this, but really, it's not about the end product. It's about what we learn from the science along the way, which is like so many
Bullshit alert! Bullshit alert! That's what that
right?
is.
Yes. Like how many evil scientists have said that in movies?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, just what we'll learn from it. And she's like, okay, just this one. And like, just this once, because it's the person I love. Like Kira, like that's bullshit also, right? Like Kira was against it until the person that she loved died, and now it's okay. Oh,
Now it's
okay.
okay,
I'm thinking of like people like George in the Lazarus Project, where let's not turn back time except when it's my girlfriend, and then I'm gonna like blow up a nuclear bomb to like turn back time, right? Like when the person Kira loves died, and Kira had like. Look, I'm not saying she shouldn't be in a lot of pain. I'm saying that when her wife was in a slow decline and she had maybe some time to know what the outcome was eventually going to be, and like
maybe she should have dealt with it instead of
like had some therapy and come to terms with the fact that she was eventually going to lose her wife, and not be like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to clone her. And like, she's going to clone her and bring her back at a younger age so she can have time to like study the disease and cure it in the next 20 years. But the idea was that Eleanor was going to wake up with full memories and be like, oh, I'm so happy to be a young bot. Like, what? And like, what were they going to tell the son? And like, they're like, I don't know what this plan was. But if it wasn't, again, Kira Manning of all people should know better, right? And then this guy, like, don't trust your lab assistant either.
Well, I think it was you, Karen, a little bit ago who said it too, though. It may partially be also that she feels guilt because she killed her. I think that the surgery is what killed her. And, you know, she could have let her live out those years without her memory, but she chose to be selfish in a way and give her the neural.
Not for nothing.
Because she didn't make the choice. Kira did. I mean, she was too far gone.
Well, not for nothing. I actually think the way it ended up was better than the alternative.
It probably was. That's why I kind of question, though, that like someone who worked and studied in that area, knowing that her medicine or whatever wouldn't work with the Alzheimer's she had, she has to know what people go through with Alzheimer's because she studied it and because she went through it with her mother. So I kind of question, though, that they didn't have a conversation like, if you ever get, you know,
this could happen to me. It happened to my mother.
But not even just that, but just saying like, if the research gets better and there's a possibility you can fix me down the road after I don't remember anything, do I want to do that? Like, because that's what I said, like Kira made the choice. Obviously she was too far gone, but I feel like they should have had some kind of conversation about it because being in the field she was, I would think she would know that there could be a possibility, like, you know, that at some point they could do something. So I don't know.
To be fair, history is full of people making bad decisions because of someone they've lost.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're totally
like real history.
Yeah.
No, you're totally right.
But like this, like to do this, I mean,
a little extreme. Just a little.
Yeah. And again, like if this was a show that took place in the same universe but not with one of the same characters, I could get behind Kira's actions a little more. I just think that like trust of big pharma, trust of big companies, trust of billionaires, trust in science, pushing the science as far as it can go, are things that she.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
No, but they kind of explain it away by her saying, like, "Oh, I'm estranged from my mother because of my difficult childhood. Oh, I don't really talk to my family because of my difficult childhood." Like they're explaining like no one else is in the show, but
you know what though? She's a lot like Cosima.
Yeah.
Because it's that scientific ego.
That's true.
Cosima made some questionable. We got mad at Cosima a lot.
Cosima made a lot of questionable decisions.
Yep.
Even like in the audio series, I'm trying to remember. I think she did.
Cosima decided to work with Delphine. I mean, well, because she thought she was hot, but also because she wanted to push the science, and Delphine pushed Cosima to be a better scientist, right?
Yeah.
But I think, what was it, AJ or Jamie who said you think that this guy sold, like,
Yeah, I said it.
AJ said it because I can't comment.
I said it because Jamie can't comment.
Oh yeah.
Comment.
Yeah.
Nobody else knew. It had to be him.
I like him though. He's.
I mean, unless the only alternative is the billionaire had the lab bug. Yeah.
Say that again. We got some interference.
I said the only alternative, if it wasn't the lab assistant, then he had the lab bugged. It's the only other way.
Daros. I was almost going to call him Davros instead of Daros.
Daros,
not that.
Yeah. I mean, so it was a nice episode. I think that there's another version of this episode where Kira just in 3 sentences says, "Oh, I was married. I lost my wife. I created you." But that would not, like,
well, at least she didn't forgive her. Like, oh, it's okay. I understand.
Well, like this and this, it's necessary to get to Kira's motivation and why she would do something so horrible.
Oh, yeah,
but
absolutely.
I did like the interpersonal scenes of Lucy being like, "Oh, so what? So you just created me, and I was just going to wake up and be like, what did you think was going to happen? I'm not her. I'm not like her."
Coming. Yeah.
And
yeah. Well, before we wrap up our discussion, let me put on the interview with Rhea, who plays Eleanor, the elder Eleanor. Yeah, her. And I will say there is a small spoiler in here, but so if you don't want to know absolutely anything, you might want to wait to see it. But AMC didn't consider it a spoiler. I kind of did. So, but it
yes, exactly. Yeah.
So did you work at all with Kristen and Amanda to sort of get her as the same person, same mannerisms, that kind of thing at all, or did you all sort of do your own version of it?
I think we all sort of did our own version. I didn't start till episode 5, right? So by the time I came, it was a little like being invited to the party late.
That's true.
Right? So I felt a little like, I got cast and flew up for hair and makeup tests when they were shooting episode, I want to say it was 1, maybe 2. So they were already in and running. So by the time I got there, I really spent time with Keely.
Mm-hmm.
Getting to know her. She and I spent time getting to know each other, so we felt like we could build a believable history of marriage together. And as far as Amanda and Kristen, I really, we talked about it, and mostly I just watched them. They were already in and working, so in some ways it was my job to pick up
what they did,
what they had started, and then figuring out how to kind of have it feel subtle and not being pointed to, and just enough that even if people weren't conscious, it drew a line.
Yeah, that makes sense. So if you played like a bunch of different versions, I'd probably be asking you if you could keep them separate, but I'm gonna ask you the opposite question. Since she does not remember as time goes on different things, was it hard to sort of, I guess, remember at what point in time you are and how much of her backstory? I don't even know if you need to know that, but I'm just, as an actress, was that hard to sort of keep that separated, if that makes sense the way I asked that?
No, it totally makes sense. And I actually spent a lot of time working and thinking through and getting really confused. Keeping kind of, I called, because I also had 2 Eleanors that I was playing, right? There's I ended up calling her the OG, and then there's the new one. So
then it's even more confusing.
And I had moments where I did a lot of asking, does it matter? Do I need to know, what have I remembered here? Do I remember that I've forgotten? Do I know there's a gap? Do I know that I've started from 0 as the old? So there was a lot of questions. And sometimes I would get on set and say to the director or to Anna, whoever was there, sometimes I was trying to put too much, right? I would realize that it actually, let it all go. It doesn't matter. She doesn't need to know that. The audience doesn't need to know that. Just trust just trust being there, because sometimes it really felt like I was trying to be really thoughtful, and how much do I keep in the fact that I know something's going on with her? Have I forgotten? Like, it was really complicated. But I had a lot of people to lean on and to ask questions to.
There we go. And of course, the rest of that, if you want to listen, if people want to listen to it, they can watch it on scifivision.com or on the YouTube channel. If you're watching this through our YouTube channel right now, if you're watching our podcast, it's there too. But yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Jamie. That was cool. And I think that's a good way to wrap up our discussion of this show.
Yep.
And let's talk about some Snowpiercer, you guys.
All right.
Yay.
The final season of Snowpiercer. Thank God. We were all so disappointed when it looked like this show wasn't going to be back, and when it went into limbo. And I know we were all pretty excited to see this. I thought it was a pretty good season finale. How did you guys like it?
You mean premiere? You said finale.
Premiere. I said finale. I thought it worked pretty well as a season premiere, and it puts a lot of stuff into action like right away. And I was surprised at some of the stuff that happened in this episode. I'm surprised at the turn this show took in this episode.
Well, I like that they're off the dang train, because I've told you guys before, for whatever reason, the show always like gives me like it's not exactly even claustrophobic, but I don't know. I just always find this show really depressing. And I like that they're not all cramped up in the train, and I don't know. I enjoyed it a little more there.
I mean, I think that was the point.
No, I know it's the point, but I just always find it really depressing, and it wasn't quite as bad this time. No, it's a good show, but I like that they're out, because I think it makes it more interesting that they have somewhere else to go now, because even though that was like such a huge part of it, it's nice the stories moved forward, and like I understand why they did it, and they did have to, pay that off.
I mean, they are in the train. They can't live outside, and
but they can venture outside.
Like, this shot is in the train. They're still inside the train for a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
like all the interior shots in New Eden are inside train cars, yes. Or maybe some shacks they've built out of whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or Osweiler's tent up in the mountain.
Yeah, that too.
Poor Osweiler.
Poor Oz.
I love the first time we see Oz. I was like, I his fight with what's his face? Bochi. I said to Artie, I was like, once a dick, always a dick.
Yeah. I don't have a picture of him.
So, the irony of me for this episode, Karen, what did I say every week when Snowpiercer was on?
Remind us, AJ. What did you say?
You don't remember?
You said a lot of things.
It was every week. I think the only time I didn't say it is if she wasn't in the episode. Every week I said fuck Zari. Every week. I hated Zari.
Zara,
yep.
But yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking at the beginning of this episode, at least they're not all fighting like they were before. But yeah, I
was like, look at this happy little family unit they've got here. I was like, you know what? I don't hate her anymore. And then now they kill her.
Yeah.
Why couldn't they kill her when I wanted them to?
When they were constantly bitching back and forth, she was.
When I constantly wanted her dead, they didn't kill her, and now they go and kill her. So let me ask you guys something. Do you guys feel like they just fridged her?
They wanted her? Fridged her?
You never heard the term fridging?
Fridging. What's fridging?
Fridging is when usually you kill a female character to motivate the male character.
Oh, well, yeah.
I felt that, like, isn't the baby more the motivation than she is?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, you didn't need to kill Zara. You could have just had them kidnap the baby.
Yeah.
For Leighton to go off the deep end.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised, and the whole time she's fighting on the side of the cliff there, and they keep doing that bottom shot up. I'm like, he's gonna throw her off the cliff.
Yeah,
Like,
and I have
it's
a
so
comment
obvious
about that. I did want to say though, we don't actually know that he threw her off. I mean, I'm assuming he did, and I think that that's what's going to happen. But I mean, the doctor was telling her, don't struggle, that he won't hurt you, and she's like backing up towards the edge of the cliff. I wouldn't be 100% surprised if it turned out that like she tripped or something. But obviously, all she sees is that they're taking the baby. And like I said, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I don't think it will, but I'm just saying we really didn't see it. They didn't show what happened.
It doesn't matter how she fell off the cliff. The point is,
it's still the person's fault.
It's their fault. It's Dr. Quacker's fault.
I mean, she also is like a crackpot witch doctor, and if she tells you, "Don't worry, he won't hurt you," would you believe her? I mean, she does experiments on people to make them like immune to pain. She's a total nut job.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, she is a total. I mean,
and why they let her go around the baby in the first place is
well. I mean, she's
no, I know.
I mean, I get it to a point. I mean, she helped Josie immensely. She's still doing skin grafts for Bogey.
Bogey, yeah.
So I mean,
you knew when she told him though. You knew though when she told Zara. Oh, I think it was Zara she told when she was like saying, that she had more skin or whatever for Bogey. You knew that wasn't where she was going.
It was.
Yeah, you knew that.
Right away she was up to something.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the death of Zara, I mean, definitely the kidnap of, what's the baby's name? Layla? The baby.
It's not Layla, but it's similar to that.
Lena, the baby being kidnapped is to motivate Leighton. I mean, I wondered if killing Zara was maybe also to remove a complication from Leighton and Josie's relationship, writing wise, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, I thought it was pretty great. But
it was working. Yeah, what they were doing was working. So I don't know they necessarily needed to do that.
Well, in which case, if you got to kill someone for effect in the first episode, is Zara's story arc complete now? She was an antagonist. She was a problem. Like, now that they're a happy little family, like, we don't need her story-wise.
No.
Fair enough.
Someone's get rid of her. Someone's got to die, like a shocking death that will affect everyone and yet not really matter that much in the end. Like, this is it, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Enough to frighten the town. I didn't really see it coming, and yet it kind of is maybe like, I mean, so much of the early episodes, there was a storyline about how, like, you can't have a baby on Snowpiercer because there's limited resources. And remember, you had to go into a lottery or you had to be selected to be allowed to have a baby. And there's not that many babies on Earth anymore. And so, like, what are these, like, guys, like, what are, like, what's it all about, right?
What they call themselves? The peace keep something.
The International Peacekeeping Force or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know what Clark. Right, and this is gonna be.
So,
weird.
in other words, a group that thinks they're good that probably aren't.
Probably.
Okay, that was an understatement, but you know what I mean. I just mean, like, they think they're doing what's right, I'm sure. And granted,
I mean, Audrey.
That's what it seems like.
Audrey pretty much froze herself to death to try and warn them, but they got there before Audrey did.
That's true too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is I'm gonna tell you guys now. I'm probably gonna have a hard time with this because I don't think I've ever seen Clark Gregg play a villain. So.
Yeah, that's what Karen said. Because that's what she said that interview.
Yeah. He is, best known from his roles in the Marvel
he's still
universe,
yep.
in which he's an inherently really good guy who everyone likes a lot. I mean, he's been in a lot of other stuff, but that's certainly his most high-profile role to date. And to see him be the boss of these guys, is it was shocking.
Unexpected.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure I knew he was going to be in the show.
I actually
I saw him in the pictures, but that was it.
already said something about it last week, and then I forgot until we were watching the episode, and I saw his name in the credits, and I was like, oh, that's right, Clark Gregg's going to be in this, and then I saw who he was. You know, like the whole time I'm going, he's going to be a bad guy. I can tell already that he's going to be one of these people in these uniforms, and he's the leader, apparently.
Yeah, and I think this shot is from a later episode. You can see his name on his uniform. His name is going to be Milius.
Well, he says his name at the very end of the
Does he say it?
Yeah.
This is not that shot. This shot is from
the beginning of the episode. I said when Ben and Till and when they come upon whatever the heck that wreckage was, and they find don't run, and I was like, and then Ben starts to run. I was like, can't you read? I'm like, where are you going? It's like, they have guns? Where do you think you're going?
People always run. It's like when the cops tell the bad guys not to run. You know they're going to run anyway, even though they have no way out.
I mean, I can see why they would run. A trap was laid for them, and I mean, I might run also. I'm not sure I would stand.
I agree.
Not at least try.
Plus, I think that sign that said "Don't run" it looked like it was in blood. So, if I remember rightly, I'm trying to remember. I think
it was red. It definitely was red. I hadn't thought about it being blood.
It might not be, but I'm thinking
I think
now.
it was like the same spray paint as whatever his is.
Oh, yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah.
But blood makes it scarier.
Yeah. I mean, that certainly took over the episode, but I kind of liked how we got to see Javi, really well.
I love their card game. That was
yeah, it's 9 months later, so
yeah, we get to see Javi, we get to see Boki, we get to see everybody. Right. We get to see Josie's doing really well, and they're drinking Mr. Wilford's liquor, running the town, having Ruth is, I thought it did a good job of establishing the situation in New Eden pretty quickly before jumping in suddenly to this very whoa, dramatic kind of thing going on.
And I can't wait to see next week's gonna be all on the train. So
yeah,
I can't wait to see what their deal is. This group of people, why they're, instead of saying, hey, more people, they're trying to take over, or whatever their goal here is.
Well, and how many of them are there, and what, they're in New Eden, right, kidnapping this baby, but then they're also, now we know that in the episode, Javi heard Snowpiercer on the radio, and he says oh, Snowpiercer is coming within radio range. And, then Leighton's okay, we got to finish this bridge because the train is coming in and whatever. So they're not too far apart, but they're far enough apart that
9 months.
No, not 9 months. I mean, geographically, Snowpiercer is not that close. It's still
that's what I meant. It took 9 months to get there. That was
no. Right now,
no.
Oh, it says 9 months earlier. It says 9 months earlier, right? You're right. It said 9 months.
That's what I mean. It's 9 months of travel.
That's what you mean.
Yeah, but it wasn't 9. But it wasn't 9 months ago that they got the message. It was
right. No, but I meant that's how long it took them to catch up with them. But yeah, you're right. Now they're close. What I said didn't really make sense, but you knew what I meant. Yeah. I knew what I meant anyway.
Now they're geographically close, but they're not so close that these guys can just zip back and forth. Maybe I don't really know, right?
Well, they have snowcats, so they can do that. But
a snowcat can't go nearly as fast as a train. It's only because they tricked the train into stopping that they were able to, right? I mean, the train travels in a couple days, hundreds and hundreds of miles, and a snowcat can. I mean, how far can a snowcat go? It needs gas, right? It's not a perpetual motion machine. It's I have so many questions about how these guys. Where the hell have they been all these years? How did they live? What's their
And
deal?
how did they stay hidden
Right.
that they didn't see
Yeah.
them when they went past on the train?
Yeah.
Well, that's why I'm hoping to find some of that out next week.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing next week. I have seen the whole
You've already
season.
seen next week. That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah, I was gonna say you've already seen. Karen's probably gonna watch it each week to refresh
I
her memory
am.
where
Yeah.
it ends.
I'm going to watch
She's
it every
better
week
at that than I am.
to keep up, and I'm looking forward to watching it develop again and see. I watched it really fast. I'm looking forward to seeing more things in it and having time to digest it and talk about it and see, like, I'm so interested in like what Leighton and what Ruth are going to do. But also, yeah, I don't have any pictures of the other part of the train because nobody. Oh, and also, like, I want to call her Rowan. Rowan Blanchard is the name of the actress.
Alex.
Alex.
Alex?
The earthquakes. That's important. Yeah, we didn't.
Alex was a little weird in this episode, right?
He was, but I
That's
think
pretty much Alex.
just-
That's pretty much
yeah.
Alex. Is exactly how she's always been.
point. I mean, Leighton knew there was something up with the bird, but I think the point was just that she was hiding from them about the earthquakes. But maybe she didn't want to freak people out. That was kind of what I was leaning towards, but it wasn't really explained 100%.
I was leaning towards her, like, engrossing herself in science so she wouldn't have to deal with the fact that her mother made a different choice and she'll never see her again, or like she's not taking any interest in running the town, and
Right.
only
I think they wanted you though to think that she was in on whatever was happening. I mean, I think that was kind of the point.
Really?
At least that's what I
didn't
thought.
think
I mean, no, I mean, she is, and I don't think she is now. But I mean, I think that through the episode, they wanted her to act cagey, so you were worried she might be.
Oh, okay.
I never thought that for a second. I thought
I thought they wanted you to make
that was just Alex being Alex. That's not
maybe.
I didn't feel any differently about that's how Alex has always been, especially and coupled with the fact that she's pissed at her mom again.
I guess, but it's just Leighton made that comment like about that at first that like the bird wasn't there when they needed it or whatever. Like I thought they were kind of implying that maybe there was a chance at first. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I thought.
I thought they were setting it up that Oz maybe not involved but knows more than he lets on, or is too crazy to even know what he knows.
It sound like he sold them out, but it's hard to tell whether that's all just in his head and he has no clue what's going on either. It's not clear.
Yeah.
Listen, he was married to a sociopath, so he knows.
Psychopath, but yeah.
He knows.
That was fucking hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah. So off to a good start, right? I think we all agree off to a good start.
Yeah. No, Karen, do you want to talk about your interview?
Yes. So I gave an interview. Conducted an interview with the showrunner. It is up now at scifivision.com, and we talked a bit about what he's looking forward to now that so this guy became Paul Z. I know.
I was gonna say I'm not even gonna try to.
I'm not even. I can't pronounce his last name. I didn't ask him how to pronounce it. He became the showrunner in 2022 for the 4th season, right as it gets canceled. There's a strike for many months, then it gets moved to another. Like, he has directed this show through 2 years of like the wilderness to bring it to screen. So we talked about a little bit about that and about some of the storytelling opportunities that occur in having like the group on the train and the group in New Eden. And you're going to get to see some characters that let me say that after 3 years, and these people have been on the train for 7 years, you would think that they all know each other very well. And I think we're going to get to see some characters interacting that we haven't seen, have scenes together that much. And so we talked about that also. And some of the storytelling opportunities there. And what else did we talk about, Jamie? Anyway, it's all up there and you can read it
about Clark Gregg at the end.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about getting Clark Gregg onto the show. And so you can read it all. It's not a video. You can read it at scifivision.com.
Very good. Alrighty.
Righty.
Well, I think that's it.
That's it for you. We got one more thing on our
Yeah. The only other thing I guess I can mention, but it doesn't. The movie doesn't come out till August 9th, so it's not going to be up for a little bit. But I did for the movie The Last Friend. I talked to Ian Glenn. That was cool.
That's cool. Yeah.
Earlier in the week, I talked to some other people too, but I mean that's who people would probably know from it. But yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't think there's anything else. It's kind of like a little bit slow because of TCA and because of Comic-Con's going on right now, so it's not. There's not as much
News going on. Yeah.
interviews anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Okay.
Okay.
Well, you guys talk about House of Dragon.
All right.
And I will see y'all next week. Have
See
a
you
good
next week, Jamie.
Good night, Jamie.
Good night.
Night. All right. Team Black is in the house.
Then there were 2.
Another week went by that did not convince me that I want to join Team Green. I'm not sure that will ever happen, but it didn't happen this week. Although I do think I started to feel a little bad for Allison this week. Not enough to really, I don't know, just, fully be on her side. But she's really isolated. She's really surrounded by her horrible children and horrible men who sideline her. This is the scene. I love this shot. This is when, like, in the small council, this is when she gets kicked off the small council.
Yeah.
And Olivia Cook was just acting her head off in this scene. And I also love this scene where she has this great conversation with her brother, and she's like, yeah, my kids suck. How's the one kid that's being raised by other people? And everyone's like, oh, great. The one you have nothing to do with, he's great. Right? So I liked all that and some other stuff that's going on there, but I think the Team Black stuff was a little more interesting. And I'm about done with Damon. Is this the 3rd episode in a row where we just see him having hallucinations at Harrenhal? Like, is his storyline completely stalled?
I think it's the 4th.
What?
I think it's the 4th episode in a row.
Right? Are we sick of that yet? Does this happen in the book? Does he just like have dreams? And his dreams are more and more disturbing. Like, did I need to see him like doing what he was doing?
I hate to say it, but I feel like they've intentionally slowed the season down.
Because so they can get 4 seasons in?
I really feel like it feels to me like they're trying to stretch shit out now all of a sudden.
Maybe.
At least I feel like the Damon stuff is finally going to come to an end now that Alice killed Old Man Tully.
Yeah, so Alice, that was kind of, I got a picture of her. That was kind of interesting where she's like, oh, Damon, don't you fret. When all Damon's plans are like going to shit, she's like, oh, just wait one more day. I'm sure things will change. And then lo and behold, like Old Man Tully dies and young Grandpa Tully dies and young, I forget whether Oscar is the grandpa or the grandson.
All I know is when the grandson met with Damon, he's like, yeah, we'll take your side as soon as my grandfather wakes up. And they're like, well, kill the old bastard. And Alice did finally.
And then lo and behold, he wakes up dead the next day, right?
And it was so funny to hear Strong tell it. He's like, we even sent our healer Alice, and she usually is really good at this. And nothing worked. And I'm like, oh, she fucking poisoned him.
Yep. Yeah, but overall, I mean, that was interesting. Like, finally, something moved there, but I didn't really.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Now that the Tullys are gonna
Bend the knee to Damon.
yeah, give their allegiance. I think that's gonna move the story around to where he's gonna be out and about now, putting more of the Riverlands together.
I guess. I mean, his story has grown really boring to me. Like, right? Is it just me? Like, it is really boring to watch him have taking mushrooms, using magic mushrooms, to just have like these hallucinations which don't really tell me anything new about his character. Yes, you're the spare. Yes, you feel like your mother didn't love you. Yeah, your brother was going to be king and you were like, all of his insecurities and things that drive him, I think
we already do.
We already knew. Like these hallucinations are not helping me.
Yeah, it's not giving us any more insight into Damon. We already knew these things about him.
Yeah. So I mean, I do think, and I don't have a good picture of his wife except for this one. Woohoo! But I think we've seen in this episode, finally in this episode and the previous one, but this is the episode where Rhaenyra kind of gets a spine, and I don't know if she has trusts Damon, wants Damon, has a use for Damon anymore. And I don't mean like romantically. I mean like she has been so isolated, and finally in this episode, she slaps that guy from her small council.
Yeah, that was great.
Right?
Like he was just, I would have slapped him too. He's just droning on and on and on. And finally, she was just like stops, turns, and smacks him. And it's like, shut up. Like, I am your queen. Shut the hell up.
Yeah.
And she's not wrong, and that's the thing. She's not wrong. All these men still look at her. They're like, oh, yes, you're our queen. And you make the rules. But they don't treat her like she's like the queen at all.
No, they don't. They treat her like, I mean, they treat her kind of like they treat Allison, in that like, oh, you're a woman, you've never seen battle. And she's like, oh, you guys never have seen battle either. Oh yeah. And they're like, oh, you don't know. But then they also give her the whole thing they give to like the king, and I don't have a pic, where they're always like, oh, we can't risk you. They were telling Aegon the same thing. You can't go out. You can't be at risk because you're the ruler, and we need to, keep you safe. And she finally was like, I'm sick of all you men. I'm the queen. Don't talk to me like that. And I'm going to make some plans here and do some things.
And some people.
And she finally, stood up a little bit. So that was great. I mean, because we only have a few episodes left, and we've been promised 2 battles this season. And so one more has to come before the end of the season. Okay, that was a stupid sentence I just constructed there, but one more is coming soon, and we have to get characters moved into place for that. And, Damon is not getting us anywhere with his hallucinations and his dreams. It's the Greens that are moving us more towards war, for better or for worse, right? Oh, by the way, we had this great scene over here in King's Landing. It's Aemond who's really he's been the driver of the last couple episodes, right?
Yeah.
And
did you notice Aegon tried to crawl away?
Yes.
Like when he first comes in, you see he's grabbing at the sheets and he's just like trying, and he's not going. And I'm like, where does he think he's gonna go?
No, because he's terrified of his brother.
Oh yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
And then he's like, no, and then he's like, I don't remember anything.
Yeah, he's lying. He remembers all of it, right?
No, he knows damn well what happened.
I mean, he remembers all of it. His mother comes to him. Also, when Allison sat with him, and just as she leaves, he goes, mother, right? He like whispers,
Mommy.
mother. He's
That was
really like, I feel sorry for him. He also has always felt unloved. Like Allison managed to raise 2 boys who feel unloved and unwanted. And she sent the 3rd boy away, right? And then I don't know how she managed to raise these 2.
Here's the problem though.
Yeah.
When you're the princes, how much raising is actually done by your parents?
I mean, are you saying that they were like left to nannies and not like?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, think about it. Especially Aegon, because he's, Aegon's, you're going to be the king someday and everything, so he's cocky as shit, to begin with.
And yet totally unprepared.
Well, yeah, they're young, so they get that whole, cocky teenage attitude to start with, Aemon has just always been psychotic.
Well, he's been bullied and treated badly, like by his siblings.
You know what? Though? He gave as good as he got, though. Like
he did.
I mean, that scene when crap. Who's the dead?
Luke.
No, Luke.
Jace.
Jace and Luke. Okay, so yeah, so Luke. When Luke took his eye, I mean, he did it to himself in that scene.
Yeah.
I mean, it started with the girls. The girls were the ones that started it on him because he took Vhagar out.
Yeah.
And the boys weren't even doing anything until he picked up a rock and threw it and hit Jace in the head with the rock. That's when they all tackled him. And then he's actually the one that pulled the knife out in the first place, and it fell on the ground. And then Luke picked it up and
yeah,
like, and it was because he had a rock in his hand and he was going to hit Jace again with it.
I mean, they had bullied him for years, because he didn't have a dragon yet, right? And I mean, they can't spend too much time showing us his unhappy childhood, but we've come to this point. I think that, I mean, I would expect Aemon to try again to kill Aegon. Aemon knows that Aegon remembers, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't believe him at all. I think I'm going to agree with Saul. No, he doesn't believe him. I don't think Aemon King Patch doesn't believe Aegon that he doesn't remember. I'm not sure why he gave him the stone, but
just to antagonize him.
Symbolic in some way, right?
Yeah.
But he doesn't believe him.
As he pressed it into his crispy flesh.
I mean, I would think he would try to kill him again until the scene later where Lord Larys comes in and says, listen, I was born with your, listen, you're never going to be what you were. You're always going to be like handicapped. People are going to laugh at you, blah, blah. I'm telling you, I was born with this, with this, he's got a club foot, right? And like people, I know about this, but I can help you is basically what he's saying, right? Like this guy is so crafty and he's like, all you've got is your mind. All you've got is your mind, and I'm going to help you develop it, basically, right?
He's hedging his bets.
Because should he live and recover, he needs to, like, Larys is always going to play every side until we see who comes ahead. He's like the little finger of this operation, right?
That small council meaning he's like, oh, he's like, Your Grace. He's like, you humble me. I never expect. He goes, no, you fool. I'm not asking you to be the hand. I'm telling you to go get my grandfather.
Yeah. And so he turns right around and it's like, okay, I'm gonna go make sure I ingratiate myself with the other guy. I think I haven't read the book, but I think the third brother is coming back, right? We haven't heard anything about Daron, the third brother, until all of a sudden in this episode there's a long conversation.
I mean, I know it's coming. So I was a little disappointed that out of nowhere they're all of a sudden, oh, by the way, I have a third child that everybody has forgotten about.
and that
I better,
everybody.
I better
Yeah.
mention him. I better mention him before he shows up again.
Yeah, he really hasn't been. I forgot that she had this other kid that was sent to
I
go live
figured
in
you
Old
did.
Town,
Most people did.
and he's been raised as a ward in Old Town, and he, according to Gwen, is like super nice and really kind and generous, and the girls love him, and yeah. So I'm interested to see. I subscribe to like Vulture has like a House of the Dragon like discussion newsletter, and there was some speculation. Could he be? Is this guy going to show up and be blonde or be brown haired like Kristen Cole? Like, how long has Allison been sleeping with Kristen Cole? And like, was he sent away to be raised someplace else for this reason? Who knows? I don't know if that's in the book. They do have, they do add in a few things that aren't in the book sometimes. It's not really relevant because he has some other storyline to play out that probably doesn't matter, maybe. I don't know, but I'm interested to see what's going to happen. Like, all these characters are suddenly popping up, like this guy. And then we had all this amazing stuff happen in this episode also, right? Which we kind of knew was going to happen.
Adam is a dragon rider.
We talked about this last week, that we had that's Sea Smoke. Is that the dragon?
Yeah.
Sea Smoke.
Yeah.
Who is the dragon that was ridden by Rhaenyra's fake dead husband, her gay husband who faked his own death and took off, right? That's his dragon, and has been riderless. Although I don't know why his dragon just didn't follow him, but he's been riderless. And the dragon really hunted Adam down and chose him. It's interesting. Adam's brother is always shaving off his blonde hair. Adam doesn't have a strand of blonde hair. He does not appear to be a dragon seed physically, but apparently he is. So,
well, yeah, I mean, he's Corley's is his dad too, so.
Yeah, Corlys is his dad also, but he doesn't like have the physical, the blonde hair is the giveaway for most dragon riders. So like if Rhaenyra Rhaenyra also tried to, I had a shot, I get all my pictures rejected by StreamYard because the sizes are too big sometimes.
Well, that's a great, the scene right before, leading up or right after this is great. Rhaenyra and Melise, what the hell's her name again? I forgot her name. White Worm. When they're making out, and then the guy like bursts in, and he's like, "Sea Smoke's been seen over, the fishing area," and she's like, "Yeah, he does that all the time. He's got a rider," and she went, "What?"
Yeah, and she says, "Who can it be? It must be the Greens." And the guy's like, "Yeah, I guess it is, because who else could it be, right?" Yeah. Because she has just tried to put Sir Stephen Darklyn on the back of a dragon, and he gets burned alive. And so I think she doesn't believe it's possible that a dragon seed can ride, right? She's had 1 in 10.
Sea Smoke. Good point. Sea Smoke didn't like the white guy. Or maybe white, or maybe white meat is just better to eat.
Yeah, dragons eat a lot of mutton, but I mean, that was pretty. That was kind of a really great scene. All this was great. I mean, the scenes with the dragons are always great, right? They're so well done, and it's why this show takes a year in post, and costs so much to be put together. Yeah. So this scene, so the kiss was not in the script.
Oh, really?
Apparently, the script originally was that they would embrace, and it was this really like just intimate moment between them, and that scene is about that embrace. Really, I mean, I think is not sexual, right? It's about like the way their relationship is developing, and they're becoming to see each other as equals. And Rhaenyra's been so isolated, and she's found a person who like understands her and everything, and then it starts to I don't know, go this other way. So I read this interview. It was actually on Vulture. Vulture has a lot of coverage of House of the Dragon, and Sonoya Mizuno, who plays Masari, gave this interview, and she said that it was not scripted, and they just, as they were doing it, they felt like that it just felt like that's how it would go, that the hug would really go to the point of a kiss, because she it's just such a, as she said, it was like the hug was just, it was so vulnerable and so tender, and then it was just a really nice thing, and then
it was believable because like the hug lingered for so long.
Yeah,
you know, it looked very natural.
Yeah. I thought it was great. I agree with you. It seemed really natural. It was really believable. It seemed to be, it flowed in the right direction. But what do you think about their relationship? Like, I like to see that Massaria is maybe changing because of finally someone is seeing her as an equal and as a value. Like, she talks a lot about having always been being used and abused and sold, and even like Damon, while he promised, like, her relationship with Damon was fully transactional. And she, you know, she saw him as a way out. I don't know what he saw in her. He used her for certain things, including to piss people off. But Rhaenyra actually is like valuing her for her mind and her perspective, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know if I trust her. I don't know if I can trust where this is, like, Rhaenyra, the people she has, she trusted Kristen Cole for a while. She trusted Damon for a while. Like, I don't know, people that
Did she ever really trust Damon?
Yeah, you're right. She probably never really trusted Damon.
I trust, I haven't questioned her loyalty simply because of how their relationship started. She didn't trust her at all. She saved her, essentially saved her life by coming, after she gave her leave, she came back because she's like, wait, there's two of them. There's only supposed to be one, Eric and Arik.
Yeah.
I really think she's finally found her place. I think she appreciates that Rhaenyra actually sees her and listens to her and actually takes her advice to heart. I think when Rhaenyra really impressed her when it wasn't her word that was given, but because it was a word given by someone from her people, and she honored it. I think that went a long way for her.
Oh, when she let her out of the jail cell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, she was made a promise by Damon, and she honored that promise because, and she was very, she was very surprised by it, if you remember correctly,
Yeah.
And she was really impressed with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this is going to be okay. I don't think.
Well, and it's it's a slightly more feminist. I mean, I'm not going to call anything in the Ice and Fire story truly feminist. And Game of Thrones was, the ending of whatever.
Yeah.
But it's like this show has been female driven, but it is only like at Dragonstone and with the Salt and Sea, Corlys's side of the family, the Valerian side of the family, Valerion versus the Targaryen side. That women, the women are powerful and the smartest people in the room. Like, there are more, like we had Rhaena, we had Rhaenyra, we have Mysaria. The blacks are more. We're seeing more. It's nice to see this kind of like relationship between two women that are powerful and smart and planning, and they're like, what, the men won't listen to us, we're just going to go do this. And the brilliant plan to, first of all, send someone into King's Landing to sort of like sow discontent And we
Mm.
see that woman who's like sitting in the inn, and she's like, I heard that a giant feast in the castle last night while we're all starving to death, getting everybody riled up. And then brilliantly, Massaria and Rhaenyra send free food to King's Landing.
Yeah.
And we have that like long live Rhaenyra the Great. Like 1 week, like 2 weeks ago, it was like Rhaenyra the Cruel. We had an episode called Rhaenyra the Cruel after the bread and cheese incident. Beer and cheese, bread and cheese, crackers and cheese, whatever those guys are called. The baby killing, incident.
The rat catchers.
The rat catchers, yeah, when they killed, the baby. And now a short time later, it's like, long live Queen Rhaenyra. She thinks of us even when our king does not. And then there's like that near riot where I was thinking when Alicent came outside of the castle and she goes walking around, I was thinking like, God, the queen just goes walking around without an escort. Yeah. Like, I know she's kind of inside the Red Keep, but still there's like hundreds of people in the Red Keep at any time, right? And then of course this like riot breaks out and someone throws a dead fish at her, which was kind of awesome. And there's that kind of, and poor Helena's caught up in it also, but it was a great move. It made me think like, I mean, I guess as much as I am Team Black and I would like to see Rhaenyra sit that throne, I have felt that is not where the show is going, and that the Greens are going to win. I don't know why I think that, because all I really know is that this is the story of how they all destroyed themselves, right? How the dragon, the House of the Dragon, destroyed itself is all I really know about what this story is. I know that 100 years later, they're gone and the dragons are gone. And I know the history and the Mad King and all that we learned through Game of Thrones. I don't know why I have this feeling that Rhaenyra is not going to sit the Iron Throne. Maybe she is before this is over. And then maybe shit continues to go bad after that. I don't really know. But this episode sort of made me think, Rhaenyra maybe is going to outthink these people. And really, I mean, I think we have seen so much with the Greens that neither of these boys can really do it. And we saw Alicent say to him, I had that picture of them together, where Alicent is like, she's always like, how many times is somebody going to say, you have the impetuousness of youth. You're too young. You guys like always want to like go to war. And I mean, I don't think that Aemon can really, he's smarter. He's made some good moves, but he is too arrogant, right? And too bloodthirsty to really prosecute a successful war.
Yeah. But he's also smart enough to call his grandfather back to be his hand.
He did, but as of now, Otto Hightower cannot be found, right?
No, they don't know where he went. He's not answering nobody.
I wonder where he went. He didn't go home, apparently. He's not home. And no one knows where he is. He's at large in Westeros somewhere. I mean, I'm sure he's going to turn up.
Yeah. Oh, there's one more thing. So we had a little bit in the Eyrie.
Oh yeah, I have a picture of that.
Yeah, Lady Arryn, man, she is something else. So Bela is out with the boys, and they come across some scorched earth.
Yep.
Come to find out, there is a very large wild dragon in the Eyrie.
Yeah.
So she's like, she was not happy with Lady Arryn. She was like, you misled me. She's like, you have a dragon.
Except she doesn't have a dragon.
She's like, oh, that? She's like, well, it is kind of large, but. So now her and the boys are on their way to getting on a ship, and they're going to Pentos.
Which is how those eggs come to Pentos that eventually fall into Daenerys' hands in Game of Thrones.
Yes.
That's how those eggs get there. Yeah, I mean, Lady Erin has a dragon, but she doesn't have a dragon. A wild dragon is not like useful at all, right? It probably is a pain in the ass at best and a huge danger at worst, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't tell who it's gonna kill. I'm not sure which dragon that is. You might know which one it is. It seems like a big part of the plot right now is finding writers for all the dragons that you can.
I keep waiting for the guy that claims to be the bastard brother of Daemon and Viserys. I keep waiting for him to go to Dragonstone.
Oh yeah, that blonde guy who was running his mouth in the
Yeah.
Him and Hugh the blacksmith clearly are dragon seed, right? And one or both of them have to wind up on a dragon. His name is Ulf, I think. One or both of them have to wind up on a dragon.
You know, the blacksmith, he kind of pissed me off. There's all these ships of food and everything, and people are like beating each other up. Like, go to the Blackwater and get some more yourself. Ships are still there. Like, people can only carry so much.
Yeah, when people are starving, you can't really. I mean, they grab. People are starving and desperate. But
that's what I'm saying. There's more. It's not like if you don't grab something from somebody else, that you're not going to get any. There is plenty there.
That is behavior we see, AJ, in many countries around the world right now, where people are hungry and aid is delivered, and they're starving. Yeah, he seemed kind of jerky, and maybe kind of the point is that Rhaenyra is going to have to deal with these like jerky guys just because they can ride dragons. Because I think that the Targaryens, they have this thing that only the dragon's blood can ride a dragon, but they definitely also think you should have a certain amount of breeding and royalty about you, right? I think eventually both of them have. I think there's at least 3. So Sea Smoke now has a writer. There's one called.
I forget the other.
There's at least 2 more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I won't belabor that, but those 2 guys and that wild dragon in the Vale will maybe find a writer also. Although I don't know. These dragons are these dragons are trained. The dragons that have riders are trained. Like, they sleep in your cradle with you, right? They like, we saw the tiny dragons playing with the babies.
I was just gonna say, how cute was the dragon? Was Aegon's dragon?
Yeah, yeah, they were pretty cute.
Yeah, that's
so. Yep. So it seemed like a good setup for next week for a couple. Except for if we could just get rid of boring Matt. I'm so glad Jamie's not here. I'm going to say boring Matt Smith needs to get off the show. Damon.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think he's actually going to leave Harrenhal next week and actually go do something.
Well, I hope he does something, and I hope he doesn't go back to Dragonstone, because Rhaenyra doesn't need him right now. Maybe she never needed him. Like, he's been using her all along, right? He's using her. And he thinks he's going to go and he thinks he's going to like be the king, and he's really not acting much like a king.
Sure he is, by saying I'm the king.
Which is by saying men think they can just say I'm the king and it makes them the king, right? Because women will just, I don't know, like because he thinks everybody will back him, and that like everybody will be like, no way can a woman be the king. A man needs to be the king, a queen, whatever, you know what I mean. So he's just so full of his own arrogance and plan. So,
but you know what? That's how Damon's been since the first time we saw him on screen.
Yes, but he used to be exciting and interesting,
yes,
and creepy, and now he's boring and creepy.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. I think
right.
that covers it all. We'll be a show later next week.
Okay, we can move ourselves a little faster next week when we have one show down.
Yeah.
At least the Acolyte.
Finale of Lazarus next week.
Yep. And then we'll
next to last episode of Dragon.
Yep, we'll get a light schedule as we move into
Echoes.
August eventually. Yep.
So
Okay, so we'll be back next week. I wanted to also let you know, AJ, that on Sunday I am gonna be a guest host with Michael Day on Talented Universe, and we are interviewing. We're doing a House of the Dragon interview with Paul Kennedy, who plays. They call him Iron Rod, the guy on the small council who was the Master of Laws, who they call him Lord Iron Rod. His name is oh, come on. The character's name is Lord Jasper Wild, aka Iron Rod, they call him. And he's gonna do a quick show on Sunday,
cool.
3 p.m. Eastern time. We're gonna have a nice interview with him before the episode airs. And we'll find out what is going on with this small council. And then we'll see you here back Tuesday, our normal time. Thanks, everybody, for listening and watching along. Thanks, NDB Media, for hosting us, right?
Thank you, Saul, for joining us in the chat.
Great chatter, Saul. Great chatter.
Gonna have to find out what happened to Ark this week. She forgot about us.
She's busy.
Sure she is.
All right.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a great week, and we'll do it again next week. Good night.